Welcome back to the deep dive. You know that feeling, right? When you try to wrap your head around something as huge as, well, layered as American culture,
Oh, yeah,
it feels immense, almost overwhelming maybe, like this constantly shifting thing with so many threads to pull on.
definitely.
And you, our listener, you've given us this amazing stack of sources. I mean, really diverse. We've got deep historical analyses, sociological reports, even travel guides and literary critiques,
Hmm.
all aimed at helping us unpack this whole thing.
And that's exactly what we're going to try and do. We're here to, guide you through all that material you sent over.
Be our expert guides.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
The idea is to pull out the really key nuggets, give it some structure, make sense of how it all fits together, maybe find some surprising facts along the way.
A shortcut, maybe.
A shortcut to being well-informed without, feeling like you're drowning in reading material.
Right. Exactly. Think of this as your deep dive, tailored from what you shared. We want to connect the dots, find the underlying logic, maybe have a few aha moments, make this complex thing feel relatable, engaging. So let's just dive straight in, shall we? Lay the groundwork. Those historical roots that really shaped American identity. I leave the groundwork. Historical roots of American identity. Okay, so when we talk American culture, you almost have to start way back. Colonial era, right? The early settlements, they cast such a long shadow.
They absolutely do. It's
Yeah.
impossible to understand the present without looking back there.
And your sources, especially the one historical analysis, really hammer home the impact of the Puritans, maybe more than we sometimes realize. What were those key values they kind of baked in?
Yeah, that source, let's call it Puritan roots.
Mm.
It makes a strong case. They didn't just, build towns. They instilled this really robust moral framework.
Okay.
Take hard work. It wasn't just about survival, which obviously was too, but it became this moral imperative, a spiritual thing almost.
So not just practical.
No, not at all. Being idle, that was frowned upon, seen as like sinful. So working hard, being diligent, that was a sign of your devotion, maybe even God's favor. And you can kind of feel echoes of that today, right? That cultural pressure on productivity, that feeling that being busy means you're, worthy, or feeling guilty about taking time off.
Wow, yeah. That's a direct line across centuries. What about things like education, community?
Right. Education was also huge, not just for skills, but primarily so people could read the Bible, interpret scripture for themselves.
Ah, okay. Religious literacy first.
Exactly. Which led to this really early emphasis on basic literacy for everyone. And that belief in an informed public, people who could read and think critically, that's kind of the seed for the public education system later on.
Makes sense.
And devotion wasn't private. It shaped everything in the community. Town meetings, social rules, everything was filtered through their strict moral code. So this focus on community responsibility, ethical governance, even in that specific religious context, it set a blueprint.
For civic life later on.
Yeah, for civic engagement, philanthropy, that sense of collective purpose. These weren't just passing trends. They were like the bedrock. Deep ideals that still, subtly influence things now.
So these deep-seated ideals, hard work is a moral thing, education for society, community shaped by devotion, they're not just history lessons. You're saying they're still kind of operating under the surface.
Absolutely. You can draw lines, maybe not perfectly straight, but definite lines. Think about the American work ethic we just mentioned.
Right.
One of your sociological reports, the one on work-life balance, highlights how Americans often work longer hours, take less vacation than Europeans.
Yeah, that's a common point.
That drive, that need to be productive, feeling guilty if you're not, it echoes that Puritan virtue of diligent labor. It's not just about money. It feels almost like moral validation for some. Or the huge value placed on schooling. The intense debates about public schools, the push for college is the path of the American dream. That's a direct descendant of that early belief in education for betterment, for opening doors.
Okay, I see that.
Even things like philanthropy, the tradition of giving back, community foundations. You can trace some roots back to those early communal religious values about collective well-being and moral duty.
So understanding this history gives context for why things are the way they are now?
Exactly. It helps explain the why behind some cultural habits.
Yeah.
Not just what Americans do, but maybe why they feel driven to do it that way.
That's really insightful. Okay, so from those early settlements, then comes the Well, the cultural earthquake, as some historians call it, the American Revolution.
Mm-hmm. A game changer.
Your sources stress it wasn't just political, it was this profound cultural shift. What actually changed culturally beyond just swapping a king for a president?
It really was a cultural earthquake. It wasn't just kicking out the British. It forged the essence of American identity. It laid down a whole new philosophical foundation. Well, before, colonists mostly saw themselves as British subjects, right? Part of that system. The act of rebellion, setting up a republic.
Mhm.
It forced a total rethink. Suddenly, ideas like freedom, liberty, democracy, they weren't just philosophical talking points.
They became core values.
Almost sacred tenets, yeah.
Yeah.
The pillars of the new nation. Freedom, in that context, meant freedom from external oppression from the king. Liberty was more about personal autonomy, your right to choose your own path without the government sticking its nose in too much.
And democracy.
The radical idea of self-governance. Power comes from the people. Revolutionary stuff for the time.
Mhm.
And these weren't just abstract ideas for the elite. They were the driving force, almost spiritual, behind the whole enterprise.
And you mentioned a quote from Thomas Jefferson in one of the sources, his take on liberty. What was striking about it, especially given, the realities of the time, the inequalities.
Right, that's crucial. Your source with Jefferson's writings is fascinating there. In his letters, like the one to Benjamin Rush about diffusion of light and liberty, he champions individual liberty not just as an idea, but as the animating spirit.
The engine of the new nation.
Pretty much. Empowering every citizen to pursue their destiny, free from old European hierarchies or state religion. But, and this is a huge but, that your other historical source, Founding Contradictions, rightly points out.
Every citizen didn't mean everyone.
Exactly. Every citizen back then meant something very different. It was a liberty mostly for white, propertied men. Women, enslaved people, indigenous peoples. Their freedoms were denied or severely limited.
So a major contradiction right from the start.
A fundamental tension. This powerful ideal of universal liberty clashing with the brutal reality of a society built on deep inequality. That paradox is absolutely central to understanding American history and its ongoing struggles.
And it's fascinating how that focus on individual liberty, even applied selectively, then fuels the whole frontier spirit, westward expansion. It's like the idea literally gets up and walks west.
It's a perfect example of an idea becoming physical reality.
Hmm.
Your source on the myth of the American West really connects those dots. Jefferson's vision of liberty was tied to land, to opportunity.
And the West was seen as empty land, full of opportunity.
Vast, untamed, seemingly limitless. So those pioneers, cowboys, settlers, they weren't just seeking land. They were living rugged individualism, self-reliance, the idea of carving your own path.
The embodiment of it.
Yeah. They believed freedom meant unhindered opportunity. Now, often that came at the terrible expense of indigenous populations already there, a hard truth your source acknowledged.
Definitely.
But that whole frontier experience, the danger, the need for initiative, it forged this cultural archetype, the self-made person who overcomes obstacles through grit. It celebrates personal achievement, resilience, pursuing happiness on your own terms.
And that's where we get that deep root of modern American individualism.
Absolutely. It shows how those early ideals shaped the national character and why things like entrepreneurship and personal agency are still so highly valued today.
Okay, so we had this incredibly strong emphasis on the individual achievement, forging your own path, really core American values, but then one of your sociological reports points out something crucial. This fierce individualism sometimes clashes pretty hard with another core ideal, equality.
Yes.
And that's not just theory, is it? It's played out again and again.
That's a key insight, and that report, The Great American Contradiction, nails it. This tension isn't theoretical. It's like a fundamental paradox woven right into the country's fabric.
How so?
Well, on one hand, individualism suggests minimal government. Let people succeed or fail on their own.
Right. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
But the ideal of equality suggests we need a level playing field, maybe societal structures, or help to ensure everyone gets a fair shot, no matter where they start.
So constant push and pull.
Exactly. All through history. Early debates. Who gets liberty? Property owners. Men. White people. Then the abolition movement, women's suffrage, the labor movement, civil rights in the 20th century. They were all struggles about expanding equality, trying to reconcile it with that individualistic streak.
And still relevant today.
Absolutely crucial for understanding debates right now. Healthcare, economic inequality, affirmative action, social justice. It's often this fundamental tension playing out. These core values, individualism and equality, they're foundational, but they're not always easy partners. Balancing them is like the ongoing American project. 2. Decoding the American dream, more than a slogan.
And speaking of ongoing projects and core ideals,
Uh-huh.
we absolutely have to talk about the American dream.
Can't avoid it.
It's maybe the most famous American idea globally. Your sources really dig into this. How do they define it? What gives it that enduring, almost mythical power?
It really is central, yeah. And your sources define it pretty clearly. The basic idea, pulling from that historical overview you shared, is that anyone, no matter their background, their starting point, can achieve success, prosperity, maybe move up the social ladder through hard work and determination. Initiative.
The classic image: house, job, family, better life than your parents.
Exactly. And it has that mythical status, that emotional pull, because it connects directly back to those historical values we just talked about.
Yeah.
Self-reliance, liberty, opportunity.
Right.
It paints this picture of a meritocracy where effort equals reward. Your past doesn't have to define your future. That promise that tomorrow can be better if you just try hard enough. That gives it incredible power culturally, a unifying story, even when things are divided.
Okay, so that's the powerful ideal, the
Yeah.
aspiration, but your sources are also clear.
Yeah.
The reality is, quote, far more nuanced. It's not that simple.
Not at all.
What are the complexities? What happens when we look past the myth?
Yeah, the gap between the ideal and the reality is where it's really interesting. That sociological report, The Shifting Sands of Success, argues the reality is way more complex. And what's really insightful is the idea that the definition of the dream itself is constantly shifting. It changes with the times, with the economy, society.
It's not a fixed target.
Exactly. What prosperity meant after World War II, single income, house in the suburbs that looks really different today. Think about inflation, wages not keeping up, the cost of college, healthcare, the gig economy.
Right. Different challenges, different goals.
For sure. For millennials or Gen Z, the dream might be less about the traditional house and more about, say, flexible work, maybe starting their own thing, or just achieving financial stability and feeling fulfilled in a world that feels less certain.
So the meaning of success keeps changing.
Constantly reshaped by economic shifts, changes in social mobility, evolving values. So for you listening, it means the dream looks and feels very different depending on who you are, where you live, your background. The dream persists, but what it is and whether it feels achievable, that varies hugely. It's dynamic, always being redefined, always debated. 3, navigating American communication and social norms.
That's a great point about how the dream adapts, or maybe struggles to adapt. It makes me think. How does this focus on self-reliance, getting things done, that's so key to the dream? How does that show up in everyday stuff like communication, social norms?
Okay.
Let's talk about that famous American directness. Is that real or just a stereotype?
It's more than a stereotype. It's a pattern. Your cross-cultural guide points this out. It causes both efficiency and sometimes misunderstandings.
Okay.
Americans generally tend to value clarity, efficiency, getting straight to the point. Not a lot of beating around the bush. It's often seen as honest, transparent.
And that has historical roots, too.
Yeah, you can trace it back. Think about those early settlers, the frontier. They had to be clear, straightforward, building things, negotiating, making quick decisions in tough spots.
No time for small talk when the barn's on fire.
Kind of, yeah. It fostered this habit of prioritizing the message, the information, over maybe elaborate politeness.
Which can cause problems cross-culturally.
Definitely. If you come from a culture that's more indirect, where you hint at things, where saving face is key, American directness can feel blunt, maybe even rude.
So the key takeaway for our listener.
Understand it's generally not meant to be rude. It's just a different cultural norm, prioritizing speed and clarity.
Got it. Okay, what about personal space? I hear that's a big one for people new to the U.S. How does that work?
Yeah, personal space is significant. It's often unspoken, but important. Your travel guide mentions this. Americans typically like a little bit of distance.
A bubble.
Kind of a personal bubble, yeah. Getting too close can feel uncomfortable, maybe intrusive. Good rule of thumb, arm's length. For people you don't know well.
Arm's length. Oh,
It creates a comfortable buffer. Shows respect for their space, their autonomy. Now, obviously it varies. Friends, family, crowded subway, the rules bend.
Sure.
But generally, invading that space can feel awkward, maybe aggressive. So being mindful of it helps interactions go smoothly, avoids making people uncomfortable. It's a key part of nonverbal communication.
Right. Subtle, but important. Okay, while we're on tricky norms. Tipping.
The tipping minefield.
Yeah, your sources call it that. I know it confuses so many people from outside the U.S. Why is it such a thing here? What's the real deal?
It is confusing. And your travel guide spends some time on it. Basically, tipping is deeply embedded in the service industry here, much more than in many places where service is included or wages are higher.
So it's not just a bonus?
Not really. For many workers, restaurants, bars, hairstylists, delivery drivers, tips aren't just extra. They're a huge chunk of their income, often the main
So
part.
the base wage is low?
Exactly. The minimum wage for tipped workers is much lower than the regular minimum wage in many places. So tips are expected. It's built into the system as part of how they get paid.
It's like the customer is subsidizing the wage.
That's basically it. It creates this social contract. But it also makes it really tricky for newcomers. Who do I tip? How much? When? Your travel guide actually breaks down the different amounts for different services, which is super helpful. It gives you a practical map for navigating that minefield, making sure you're doing it right, because it directly impacts people's livelihoods. It's really an economic system as much as a custom. IV, Echoes of Identity, American Popular Culture.
Okay, switching gears a bit, let's talk popular culture. Something vibrant, dynamic, that definitely reflects American identity. Music, movies, TV, they're everywhere globally.
Global impact, yeah.
So what are some of the really iconic American contributions here, and how did they get so big worldwide?
Oh man, where to start? Music is a great example, as your cultural studies essay points out. Its influence is just profound.
Like what genres?
Think about jazz, born from African-American communities. That leads to blues, rock and roll, soul, R&B. Then later, hip-hop emerges, country music develops its modern form, folk music.
All originating in the U.S.
Pretty much all originated here, yeah. And they've shaped music globally, influenced countless artists, scenes, movements everywhere.
What makes them so influential, do you think?
Well, that essay argues American music often has this incredible energy, kind of raw, innovative, maybe rebellious sometimes. And it has this amazing ability to blend different cultural influences.
Reflecting the melting pot idea again.
Exactly. Reflecting the diverse population, migration, cultural mixing, jazz improvisation, country storytelling, hip-hop's lyricism. They all offer this powerful emotional window into the American experience.
Totally agree. That energy, the blending, it's undeniable. Okay, what about Hollywood? Movies and TV, it's synonymous with entertainment.
Right. Hollywood isn't just a place, it's a global powerhouse.
How did it get so dominant, and what does it usually tell the world about America?
Well, your media studies report, Global Narratives, really digs into this. For better or worse, Hollywood is dominant. It projects images, stories about American life and values all over the world.
Cultural mirror.
Kind of a cultural mirror, yeah. Sometimes it's distorted, sometimes surprisingly accurate. American movies and TV often reflect American values, anxieties, dreams.
Like what?
Think about the classic individual hero fighting the odds, or the fascination with technology, or exploring social issues, even if imperfectly.
And these stories are seen everywhere.
Billions watch them. And yeah, sometimes they're a little exaggerated for drama, but they definitely shape how the world sees America, transmitting norms, ideas about success, even fashion. It makes Hollywood this incredibly powerful, sometimes controversial ambassador for American culture.
The scale of it is just massive.
The production, the distribution, it cements that global reach. V, a culinary time capsule. American food culture.
Okay, let's move to something delicious. Food. Everyone thinks burgers, fries, apple pie.
The stereotypes.
Right, and sure, that's part of it. But your sources say American food is way more complex, more interesting than that. What's the deeper story?
Yeah, we got to push past the stereotypes. American food is so much richer. One source, the Culinary History one, had this great phrase, American cuisine is like a culinary time capsule.
Ooh, I like that. What does it mean?
It means it's not just dishes. It's like a living record. It reflects all the waves of immigration, cultural exchange, innovation over centuries.
So the melting pot again, but on a plate?
Exactly. Or maybe a mosaic is better. Every group that came, whether they wanted to or not, brought their food traditions, ingredients, cooking styles, and it all got mixed together, changed things, enriched the whole tapestry.
So it's always changing, adapting.
Totally. It absorbs and reinterprets flavors from everywhere. That's why you see such huge regional differences, too. It's diversity you can literally taste.
Okay, culinary time capsule. Love it. So beyond the concept, what are some specific examples, dishes that really show this rich history?
Oh, tons. Think regionally. You've got Southern barbecue, totally distinct styles, right? Carolina, Texas, Kansas City, telling stories of local ingredients, techniques, often with deep African-American roots. Or New England clam chowder, Creamy, hearty, comes right out of those coastal fishing towns.
A classic.
Head southwest, you get Tex-Mex, that amazing blend of Texas and Mexico, fajitas, nachos, that whole flavor profile.
Yep.
Down in Louisiana, Cajun and Creole food, like gumbo jambalaya. That's a mix of French, African, Spanish, Native American influences.
Yeah.
Unique, spicy, incredible.
Wow.
And you absolutely cannot forget the huge impact of immigrants everywhere else. Italian-American food basically became mainstream American food, right? Pasta, pizza.
Totally.
Chinese-American classics like chop suey, fortune cookies, they evolved here into their own thing. And now, vibrant Indian, Vietnamese, Korean, Latin American cuisines are constantly adding new layers, especially in cities.
It's always evolving.
Always. It really is an aha
Yeah.
moment when you see food as this tangible, delicious proof of America's dynamic cultural evolution and its incredible diversity.
Huh.
The unifying thread, dynamic complexity of American culture.
You know, talking about food really drives home a point that's been running through this whole conversation. American culture isn't just one thing. It's not a monolith.
Not at all.
It's this complex mosaic. You've got these strong regional flavors, huge ethnic and racial diversity, different generations seeing things differently, all feeding into the bigger picture.
Exactly. Your sociology of identity source nails it. Isn't a monolith. It's this rich tapestry. Regional differences, think Pacific Northwest versus the Deep South, right? Totally different vibes.
Oh, yeah.
Or New York City versus, say, the Mountain West. Then add all the contributions from immigrant groups, the distinct experiences of different racial communities. It's not one identity. It's like a symphony with lots of different instruments, sometimes playing together, sometimes clashing a bit, but always creating something complex.
So how does all that complexity, all that diversity, regions, backgrounds, generations, how does it actually hold together? It sounds like it must be constantly moving, never settled.
Well, that's kind of the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what makes it endlessly fascinating. American culture is inherently dynamic. It's constantly evolving. Like a tapestry, yeah, but one that's never finished.
Still being woven.
Exactly. It's fluid. It can be messy. Threads get added, rewoven, maybe some get frayed. But it's always adapting to the changing times. It absorbs new stuff, reacts to world events, argues with itself about who it is and where it's going.
So the change is the constant.
That's a good way to put it. And that ever-changing nature is precisely what makes it so compelling to explore. Always more layers, always new ways to understand how America is redefining itself. It's this perpetual story of becoming something new.
7.
Technology, innovation, and the American future.
I totally agree. And this whole conversation really shows how many layers there are, how dynamic it is, which actually brings us to another key driver of that dynamism: technology and innovation.
Ah, yes. Huge factor.
The U.S. has historically been, and still is, a leader here.
Yeah.
How has that relentless innovation shaped American culture, beyond just giving us new gadgets?
Oh, massively. Your source on innovation history, from Silicon Valley to Main Street, makes that clear. It's not just about inventing things. It's had a huge transformative influence on how Americans live, work, interact.
It changes everything.
Right. It shapes daily routines, but also expectations about progress, convenience. It's altered the economy, how people connect, even how they see themselves. The drive isn't just utility. It's about pushing boundaries, solving problems, finding the next big thing.
Yeah.
It taps right into that can-do spirit.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, think about the telephone, the car. They totally changed communication, where people live. Then the internet, social media, completely reshaped how we get information, connect, even see reality.
Exactly. Those key examples, phone, car, internet, social media, they show the profound cultural impact. The phone shrunk distance, changed community. The car fueled suburbs, created car culture, tied into that freedom and mobility idea.
The open road.
Right. And the internet and social media, radical transformation in information, community building, identity expression, even how identity is curated. These things embody that core spirit of innovation and the relentless pursuit of technological progress. It's deeply woven into the culture, this constant drive to invent, optimize, disrupt. It leads to these fast cycles of change, embedding tech into almost everything, shaping expectations for constant improvement.
And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the future. With AI moving so fast, VR getting better, lives lived more and more online. What does that do to American culture, to identity, community, values? It's kind of mind-boggling.
It does raise huge, maybe unsettling questions. How will the digital horizon reshape things? As tech influences work, learning, relationships, our very sense of self, American culture will be right in the middle of that transformation.
Will individualism get stronger? or weaker in these hyper-connected digital spaces?
Good question. And what does freedom mean when there's so much data, so much AI? It's definitely provocative. How will American culture adapt, integrate, maybe even lead in defining new norms for this digital age? The very meaning of American might shift with these currents. 8. Education as a cultural mirror.
Absolutely. It's a huge question, which actually connects to another major institution that reflects the culture: education.
The school system.
Given everything we've talked about, Puritan roots, individualism, innovation, how does education fit into this whole picture today?
Education is definitely incredibly valued in American culture. Your report on education trends, learning for life, really emphasizes this.
Why so valued?
It's rooted in this strong belief that education opens doors, creates opportunities. It's seen as the main engine for individuals to get ahead and for society to progress.
The pathway to the American dream again?
Often, yeah. And there's that long tradition of public education, aiming for access for everyone, plus a constant push to improve and innovate the system. It's not just about job skills. It's about social mobility, creating informed citizens for democracy, a deep investment in potential.
Makes sense. Now, that report also argued that American education aims for more than just academics, more than job prep. What are the broader values it tries to instill, and how do those connect to the culture?
Right. That's key. It's aiming for much more than just rote learning or acquiring technical skills. Learning for life highlights a really strong focus on critical thinking.
Thinking for yourself.
Exactly. And problem solving, creativity, adaptability. The goal isn't just knowing facts, it's to equip students with the tools they need to navigate a world that's constantly changing.
So, preparing them for uncertainty.
Sort of fostering well-rounded individuals, people who aren't just knowledgeable, but also innovative, resilient, independent thinkers. That includes valuing a range of talents, not just STEM, but also humanities, arts, social sciences, because those are crucial for understanding people, complexity, fostering empathy.
And how does that connect back?
By pushing independent thought, challenging norms, it ties right back to embracing different views, fostering innovation, pushing boundaries. It's about creating citizens who don't just fit into society, but can actually help shape where it goes next. IX, unpacking the American spirit, the intangible core.
Right. Okay, we could honestly keep going on these dynamics forever, but I think we've laid down a really solid foundation. Before we wrap up, though, one last question, maybe the hardest one. We've hit the tangible stuff: history, values, communication, food, tech, education. But what about the intangible, that American spirit people talk about? What is that? How do your sources define it? How does it actually show up?
Yeah, that's a tough one to pin down, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard to put your finger on, like your literary critique source, The Spirit Unbound, says. But there's definitely an energy there, a powerful current.
So what's in the mix?
That source describes it as this blend. There's usually a strong sense of optimism, maybe bordering on naive sometimes, but still there. There's resilience bouncing back from hardship, a real can-do attitude, the belief that problems can be solved. And underlying it all, this fundamental belief in the power of individuals to control their destiny, shape their world.
You hear it in the phrases.
Exactly. Anything is possible if you just work hard enough.
Yeah.
Never give up. The classic pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. It's that belief in individual capacity to overcome through sheer will.
Self-reliance, determination, facing challenges, and you see it in real stories, right? Not just slogans.
Absolutely. It's lived. Think about all those stories, and they're countless of immigrants arriving with nothing, working incredibly hard, building lives, businesses, contributing hugely, or entrepreneurs starting in a garage, a dorm room, taking huge risks, building something massive, driven by that innovative spirit.
Right.
Or just everyday people facing tough times, job loss, natural disaster, showing amazing grit and community spirit. It's all fueled by that underlying belief in human potential, the capacity to overcome.
And it shows up in stories we tell, too. Books, movies.
Oh, constantly. It's a recurring theme, reflecting and reinforcing the ideal. Classics like The Great Gatsby, that relentless, maybe tragic pursuit of a dream of reinvention. Or more modern films like The Pursuit of Happiness, that raw determination to make a better life against all odds. These stories cemented in our heads.
And how has that spirit itself changed as America got more diverse, more complex? It can't be static, stuck in the past.
Good question. And The Spirit Unbound addresses that too. It argues the American spirit is not static. It's been shaped and reshaped by so many different groups and historical events.
That's so.
Think about abolitionists, suffragists, civil rights leaders, all the social movements. They challenged the old definition of who got to participate, what opportunity meant. They redefined the spirit.
So its relevance today is in how it keeps changing.
Exactly. It's less about clinging to some idealized, maybe exclusionary past. It's more about embracing innovation, adaptability, that resilience that's always been at the heart of the American experience. Today, it's being looked at through lenses of collective action, inclusivity, what opportunity really means in a diverse global world. It's a living narrative, always adding new voices, facing new challenges.
I love that, a living narrative. You know, that this whole conversation has really underlined just how dynamic American culture is, always changing, absorbing, debating, pushing itself.
It really is. It's always evolving, constantly adapting. And maybe that's what makes it so endlessly fascinating to explore. Just so many layers for anyone curious enough to dive in. Outro.
Well, this has been quite a journey, a real deep dive into American culture. We've covered, wow, so much ground.